Warriors Unite! Back with another episode of Vigor Wars 2 and the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing wonderful tonight. This is a great evening, as all evenings are. Under the Lord, thank you guys. Continued success. Hope you guys are continuing on your plan, conquesting yourself and other things around you, and having dominion over things as you're meant to be, as a masculine man, as a high-value man that you should be. All right, so I didn't get a chance, my friends, all busy. We're doing stuff around the house and all kinds of stuff today, so I didn't get a chance to actually go back through shout-outs, but I will do one, the comments from Mark Anthony, who talks about texting and semen retention. I did have a comment a few minutes ago talking about the difference between semen retention, why the word is semen retention and not nofap. And at the beginning, I think I probably used nofap a lot more. But nofap really is more of focusing on not watching images. I think retention is a bigger picture. And basically what you're trying to do is kind of, no matter what's happening around you, you're focusing on trying to keep your energy no matter what. It doesn't necessarily mean fapping, but it also means to not have intercourse, celibacy, brahmacharya, focus, and things like that. So I think it's important to kind of look at that. And so there's a separation that I'm making now as we go to closer to monk mode, as we go through basically going to the idea of really conserving our energy, transmuting it, and using it to accomplish things more than just going ahead and chasing women around all the time. So, all right, at 1 minute 45 seconds, let's kind of talk about Mark Anthony's comment, talking about the relationship between texting and semen retention. I think it's a good one in the modern times that we're talking about. A lot of people text a lot. In fact, a lot of relationships begin with texting and end with texting. Really interesting, not personal one-on-one contact, but really more of the texting, like written variety, especially with areas like COVID. We've had things like that over the couple of years. People have been not really interacting, and they've been kind of doing more of the social media, more of the texting, more of using the technology. So let's kind of talk about this. We'll take a step back first to look at this. So again, remember, semen retention, the idea of semen retention is to kind of hold your energy in instead of releasing it, whether it's to pictures, to people, whatever it might be. And you're trying then to use that energy to transmute that to other things around you. So let's examine the idea of keeping your energy, then using it to all the benefits. And remember, we talk about all the benefits of semen retention, and those type of things really are focusing on attraction, focusing, great memory, a lot more energy, a lot more focus on goals, a lot more health benefits, feeling better, confidence-wise, less anxiety. There's numerous benefits we talked about over the last couple years. And so as you look at the benefits of semen retention, now you have to look at how you communicate. And I talk about this a lot in my classes at the college level, especially because I focus a lot on communications and how to communicate well with people and the communication model and the things we talk about when I talk about the sender, receiver, and all those type of things that we talk about, and the channel and the message and things like that. Well, if you're on retention, your confidence level is very high. You have less anxiety, you're not as fearful of rejection, you can handle those things, and you're also becoming very attractive to women. So the idea of texting really is not that important to the high-value male. The high-value male who is retaining is not going to be all that affected by texting one way or the other. Now, we can talk about specific types of things when it comes to texting. For instance, you should not ever be the one that should actually go ahead and start texting women all over the place. It makes no sense, because you're defeating your own purpose, because you're attractive. You're the one that should be being chased. You're not chasing them with texting and trying to text them and plead with them to have relationships or go out or whatever it might be. You're the one that's being chased. So you're the one that should get the texts. The other thing is as you're texting, you don't need to put a lot of long-term texting in there. short questions, things like that, or comments back is fine. And what you really want to do is make sure that you're connecting with that person. And obviously you want to be polite, respectful, of course, as high value males always are. But on the other hand, you don't want to be desperate. You're not going to get into that mode because you don't feel like that. As a high value male who's on retention, you're not feeling that way. You're feeling that basically the women have been always chasing you. Now, it's just more noticeable now because you're on retention. A lot of times it was kind of you're chasing them until they catch you type of deal. And now, because of retention, and now you're focusing on your goals and you're not paying attention to women, you're basically being chased all over the place. And once again, the question becomes your decision whether or not you're going to go ahead and talk with this woman or that woman or whoever it might be. Because you're going to have your choice of the litter of any woman who's interested in you. And most of them will be. Because they sense the energy, they sense the masculinity, they sense a person who's a warrior. And they're going to want that person. And that's just the facts of the game. And you can see that as you're doing this more and more, you can understand that. Psychology-wise, you're letting yourself go. You're being yourself. You don't care about women rejecting you. You don't care about that. And that's highly attractive to women. And women want to chase. If women are chasing you and they catch you or they're with you, they're not going to let you go because they made a decision that you were the one they wanted. And because of that, they're not going to cheat that easily. They're not going to do other things that easily because that would go against their whole basic nature. And they're not going to ever say they're wrong with things. So if they're choosing you, they're going to choose you. It would take a heck of a lot for you to do things, especially, if you become weak or simpest and things like that. But if you're a strong male, you have nothing to worry about. And in relationships, because basically you're the one who basically is the masculine male who that female has been chasing forever. And she will continue chasing you. So texting is something that you should do very infrequently, in my opinion at least. And if you do, just do it, reply and be polite and those type of things, and not really be leading and just texting people all the time. That's a sign of a desperate type of male. And masculine males, high value males, and retention are not that way at all. So if you're going to text, you're texting basically to respond back to somebody, or if you have a question or something, a normal type of thing. But basically, you're not focusing on something like, I'm going to continue to text, can you see, all this kind of stuff, because we've been taught in the society that we should chase women, and that's just the opposite of what it should be. And in fact, most times when it happens, the women will keep moving back and back. It's almost like a game of cat and mouse. And unfortunately, you're in the wrong position. And so eventually, if you've caught the woman, the woman has not made the choice to be with you. You've made a choice to be with her. She may just have accepted it at some level or another, but it's not something that she basically is made the choice of at the beginning. See, that's the key, my friends, that I've learned over all these years in relationships. That basically, if the woman chooses you, she's not going to let you go because in her mind, it's called cognitive dissonance. They're not going to think they're wrong. And so basically what they're going to continue to do is try and try and try because they know that eventually they're going to get you. But the challenge of getting you at all times, no matter if you're married, no matter if you're not married, it doesn't matter. They will continue to challenge because they have made a choice that they want you, and you are not that easy to get because you didn't really care. You're basically focusing on your goals. You're focusing on the things you do. So texting should not be a big thing to the high value male. It basically is something that is there, obviously a form of communication, and people need to reach you, that's fine. And if they have to ask you something, that's okay. But you're not initiating that type of discussion. At least in my mind, you shouldn't be. You basically should be responding back to those type of things and being polite. But really, you're not going to go ahead and kind of have long, drawn discussions online, especially if you can go see the person, and eventually you can meet the person and talk. The texting thing is very difficult in some ways because when people write things, they put context in there that shouldn't, maybe not meant to be in there, maybe meant to be there, and all of a sudden it changes the whole conversation. Anytime you see something that's written, you see that, and people may not mean the things they're saying, but they're in a written form. And so you have to be very careful when you write things out because those types of things can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. So as we look at this, and Mark makes a good point, we have to look at our written communication and realize that as a high value male, warriors, you basically are in control. You're in dominion. You're dominion. You're in charge. And basically, all these other things around you might be circulating around. They may be trying to kind of get to you, those energy suckers and all those vampire suckers and people as zombies and things that we talked about before. But you're in charge. You're the person, unless you let go, unless you give up that dominion, which we do because we release and do other kinds of things, be simplest behaviors, and we basically do those type of things, we're giving up our power. But as long as you continue, doing the things you're doing, controlling yourself, running your own game, running your own horse race, basically you'll have all the attraction, all the things you want. The key is going to be whether or not you want that attraction from a certain individual or not. And you have to make that choice as time goes on. But I think Mark brings up a good point, is when you're talking about texting, you have to be careful with texting, because texting is something that, is a written form and can be misinterpreted in many ways unless you're seeing the person and you're talking to the person directly. Once again, this warrior is an old warrior, so I go back to the old days of just being in front of the person, talking to the person. Nowadays, a lot more people are doing things online, texting, things like that, and I understand that. But I also understand that there's an important, difference between sitting in front of somebody and talking with them and even seeing them, even on different types of media, than it is going ahead and focusing on a text message and things like that. So texting for the high value male is different than the person who's the simp, the person who is not that confident, who's desperate. It's a whole different type of thing. And you can tell the difference. If you're sitting there looking at a person and they're responding all the time, or they're apologizing, all this kind of stuff, and they shouldn't be apologizing, then all of a sudden they're acting in a desperate mode. And women can smell that a mile away. And so as you look at this, texting is important to get your point across, get some information, try to get something done. But on the other hand, even in a work situation, you're not going to use texting a lot. You're going to use texting infrequently, maybe it's being polite to get information, things like that. So texting is a different type of thing, and I think Mark has got a good point here, focusing on texting, and the use of it is probably going to end up going up as time goes on, because people are going to avoid the actual conflict of breaking up or getting together, and they want to make sure they're safe. And so what they're going to do is probably end up texting people, and people will respond back. And who knows who's responding back? You never know in a texting if that's the person or someone else. You just don't know. And so it's a really kind of, a crapshoot in a lot of ways. And as you look at things, I think as more people do media and they focus on media, it becomes a lot more difficult, because you're not really getting to see that person. And sometimes you see the person and there's a whole different reaction when you end up seeing that person as compared to when you're not seeing the person. So I think it's important to kind of focus on the idea that you really want to go ahead and, communicate to people and focus on people. And sometimes the only way to focus and communicate is through media. But on the other hand, you want to make sure you know the differences and disadvantages of just texting as well. And I think it's important not to go on and on with texting, write short types of messages, and to be able to kind of respond politely back. But, it's not something you're going to go ahead and initiate, in most 99% of situations. So, all right. Anyway, guys, thank you for that comment, Mark. Tomorrow, I think, or next day, one of these days, we'll do a new dating apps. I got one as well. We talked about the new dating apps, and I'll look into those a little bit more and kind of give you my opinion. Once again, I think when it comes to any kind of social media, whether it's texting, whether it's apps, things like that, the high value male doesn't need that. Guys, when you're whether it's Tinder or whatever it might be, you don't need that. And the reason you don't need that is because you're being inundated all day long with women who are looking at you. They want to be with you. They're attracted to you. And it's very plain for anybody who's been on the streak for a while. They know that. So why need to go ahead and try to match people and all that other kind of stuff? That to me is not for winners. That's for losers. You want to go ahead and focus on the fact that you're going to achieve your goals. A woman will be there, and if you're interested in the woman, great. If you're not, it's time to move on. It's time to go ahead and accomplish your goals and do the things you need to do. So again, we'll talk about that tomorrow, but again, I'll probably end up saying some of the same kinds of stuff, or whenever I get a chance to, focusing on the idea that you basically don't need these social media types of things. Women will contact you. Let me put it this way before we end in this thing. Women will contact you because they're the ones chasing you. They've always been. In the history of mankind, they've always been. The women are the ones walking down the street with half their clothes on. The women are the ones who are initiating a conversation, verbal, nonverbal. It may look like the male is making the first step, but it's only because the female is giving them signs on purpose. And I've talked to many females over the years, even my daughters, talking about the same type of thing. They are not going to initiate conversation, but they will tell you other ways. Their eye contact, the way they look at you, the way they talk to you, the tone of voice they have, all these seductive things will talk with you. And so therefore, you have no need to go into all these type of other things to try to enhance your ability, because you're a marketable person when it comes to that. But on the other hand, the reason you're marketable is because you're controlling yourself. You're not going to release. You're basically going ahead and achieving your goals, doing what you got to do, and you're becoming that high value male. And so the women are almost the last type of thing on your list. And it's nice to have companionship, but you don't need that. Warriors, you don't need that. What I have found after all the 3 years I'm on this, been on this, and the idea that you have God. God is with you. You don't need necessarily people around you. Now, that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, because people think, well, they're lonely and things like that. But you're only lonely if you feel lonely inside. And if you feel like there's things you're doing, accomplishing, you have no time to be lonely. I mean, my whole day today was busy. I barely had time to actually do something like this. Basically because, and I got to go work on a treadmill when I get back, into the house. The idea is that basically you have so much things going on, you don't have no time to sit there and worry about you're lonely. A lot of people have time. They're doing TikToks, how lonely they are, how sad they are. To me, this is a loser attitude. And I remember, because I've been there. I was there a long time ago. That's a loser attitude. And what you got to do is realize that if you get busy, if you accomplish things, I don't care how old you are. I'm 62. I have so many goals that I have to achieve still, that I would probably be living to 100 to try and still not achieving them. But you got to keep achieving. That's what human beings do. They achieve things. They do things. They accomplish things under God's rules and purposes. And that's what God wants you to do. You're a functioning human being. God did not want you to be there just to sit in front of a TV set and basically release energy. That's not what God's purpose was for you. I know that for sure. I mean, that's something that's not sitting there anytime in any kind of Bible, anywhere, talking about it. In fact, they talk about discharging in a negative way, where you're unclean for 7 days in the Bible. All right, anyway, good discussion. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Mark, great topic. And we'll talk about the dating apps once I find out more about these things. And we'll look at them the next time we're together. All right, 2 things always tonight, guys. Have a great evening. First of all, always remember, every day is a new day to a great warrior. And you guys, every one of you is great warriors. And the reason is because every day we line up and look at the enemy and Satan. And we say that it's time to